Before we get started, can you please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the alert notification to get our latest content?
Hello, everyone. It's Brian from Home Painters. I'm absolutely thrilled today to bring you our next topic. We're actually approaching the exterior season in about 2 to 4 weeks from now, weather permitting. And a lot of customers are starting to ask me about exterior painting. So I'm just going to address a lot of the costs involved in there. And we're going to start with the windows and door frames, the cost of the windows and door frames. By the end of the video, you will learn the cost of the cost of painting, prepping and painting them, the process, the general process, as well as time, how long it takes roughly, and factors that affect the cost as well. And by the way, I do this at least once a month. And so if you'd like to hear more of this, click subscribe, as well as click a like if you're happy with what you hear, and also post any comments in the chat bar below as well, and I'll be answering them as we go as well. So just to get started, we're going to talk about the cost of exterior windows and door frames. In Toronto, I would say it's mostly aluminum and vinyl right now, but there are still a handful of homes that still have wood. So it's hard to gauge exactly. So I'm just going to give ranges. But I would say it starts at about $100 per window and goes as high as $300. And of course, that's a huge variant, but the main reason why is because of the amount of prep involved or how high it is and those kind of factors, which I'm going to address later on in the chat. Okay, so window or door frame actually is anywhere from $100 to $300, and most of them I would say range in the $150 to $300 range, okay, per window or door frame. Of course, if you have one of those triple or double or triple windows, then you just multiply times how many windows are inside that cluster of windows, okay? If they're French windows, for example, if they're the type of windows that have those T-bars in them in several different squares, then it's much more than that. It can even double that price and even triple depending on how much prep is involved. So those are more expensive as well. And then the final amount for the dormers, and those are the usually on the second or third level, usually on the third level. And a lot of time in Toronto, you'll have a third level dormer, and it's usually one or two on the roof. And those are really, really hard to reach. And sometimes you even need to rent a cherry picker to get them. Sometimes you get them with 40-foot ladders, but cherry pickers, depending on the situation. And those ones can start in the $1,000 range. It can go as high as like 2,500 to $3,000. Depends on how hard they are to reach. For example, if you have to rent a cherry picker, they're roughly $800 a day to rent a cherry picker. So that's just the cost, and without even any labor and material. And of course, prep is usually a lot of preps involved in them because they usually get beaten down by the sun as well as the rain, and they get pretty beat up as well. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to talk about is the process. So exterior depends on aluminum or vinyl, or as well as if it's wood. If it's wood, there's usually almost always a lot more prep involved. So you have to scrape it, sand it, caulk it, prime it, and then of course 2 coats of paint. If it's vinyl, you can actually get away with just going straight paint, or you can actually prime it and paint it too, which is an option as well. You can use a bond primer as well as paint. For example, Sticks or Extreme Bond Primer for Sherwin-Williams works good. Sticks for Benjamin Moore. And then, of course, for finish coats, usually you'll go A100 for Sherwin-Williams. And Duration as well works good on good exterior painting as well. And for Benjamin Moore, we usually go with Regal or Aura for the line of paint as well for Benjamin Moore. And the time it takes to get it done, it depends again on preparation and how difficult the window is, the heights and location. For example, if it's a second or third story window, it takes a lot longer than like if it's on your front porch area. So, but it usually ranges from about 1 to 3 hours, including the prep and painting. And for typical, give you an idea, if you're looking for a price just for your windows and frames, for a typical, let's say 1,500 to 2,000 square foot house in Toronto, you're looking at about 2 to 4 days. It depends on how many painters they can have on site. Most crews have 2, but if you want more, you can get it done faster, of course. Okay. If it's a bigger home, like if it's, let's say, a 2,000 plus square foot house, 3,000 square foot house, those big, huge homes in the middle of Toronto, those ones can range up to between 1 and 2 weeks because, again, it depends on the amount of prep. difficulty, how many coats, etc., and weather. Weather is always a key wild card that you can't really predict here, and it's very important that you factor in weather. Like if the weather is obviously raining or it's extremely windy or cold, then you probably want to take those days off. Okay, final thing I'm going to talk about is factors that affect the costs. The biggest one, most obvious one, is labor, and the amount of labor is usually dependent on prep. Exterior prep is about, it can be as much as 50, 60, 70% of the job. Depends on how bad, how old the windows are and how much they're peeling and how much prep they are. But of course, if they're aluminum or vinyl windows, then you can get away with almost no prep, just a little bit of caulking, cleaning up, and then primer. And sometimes you can use a paint and primer, 2 coats, or you could do primer and 1 coat of paint as well. It works as well. So amount of prep is a huge factor there. The other things that affect the cost of the paint is the time of year. Summertime is good, but sometimes when it's really humid, it slows us down. And of course, weather is a huge factor that affects the cost. Actually, it doesn't affect the cost, but it affects the painting time. For example, if it's really cold or rain, then you expect it to take a lot longer. The other thing that affects the cost is the urgency and the speed. For example, if you need the job done really quickly, you're selling the place and you want to put it up for sale, and it's you need it done fast. Sometimes there'll be a bit of a premium on there. And then, of course, the size of the job. For example, if you're just doing 1 window versus the whole house, it's going to be a lot more per unit to do that 1 window than it would be to do the whole house, just because there's a certain amount of setup involved with pretty much every company, and usually they'll charge you more just as a premium because it's just 1 window. In most cases, I would say 95% of the quotes that I end up doing, most people want at least like the front of the house, if not all the windows done. So that's usually not the case too often. The other thing that affects the cost is difficulty of the job. For example, the amount of prep, which we already discussed, as well as the difficulty. And the difficulty meaning how high it is. Are the angles really accessible? Does it require renting a cherry picker or special ladders? So that's really that can affect the price as well. The final amount is, of course, method of payment. Check e-transfer is always cheaper than credit card. But of course, some companies, including ours, takes credit card and we don't charge you an extra fee. But every company is different, of course. So hopefully that was helpful. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to email us directly or post it in the chat below and we'll get notified. Email is sales@homepainterstoronto.com. And the actual if you want to call us, 416-494-9095. You can call us directly and we'll be happy to help you out, as well as discuss any issues and get your quote as soon as possible. So I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy what you see, as I said, subscribe, hit the subscribe button below, and as well hit the like button, and we'd love to hear from you as well. Okay, hopefully that was helpful, and have a great day.